Everyone, this is Vineet Pandey, 3 a.m. and we are finally back to the classes again. So last 2 or 3 days I was just finishing my book. Many of you were asking me that my book will be in the exams and book will definitely come to the market. So I think by 14th of Feb it can come to the market. तो हो सकता है 14th Feb तक मेरी बुक मार्केट में आ जाए because we are going through some final changes and most of the chapters they have been given to the production house. So I believe maximum 14 Feb तक हमारी book आ जाएगी. Now all the students who are here, we are going to talk about the most important concept of GATE. See, when we discuss the syllabus of GATE, we talked about this thing that it is clearly mentioned that Victorian age is very important in GATE. They will have a focus on 19th century. Okay, there was a huge trouble. So I'm going to set it again. There was a huge trouble. The base of this, something that was carrying my mobile phone, it fell down. So we're talking about Victorian age. Why we're talking about Victorian age? Because it was mentioned in the syllabus that there will be a special emphasis on 19th century writers. 19th century was the time of a great change, a great turmoil in the world scenario. Most of the countries they were freed. Most of the countries which were colonized, they were fighting for freedom. So 19th century start कहाँ से होता है? Like 1801, 1802. This becomes early 19th century. So when we talk about 19th century, it means it's 1801 to 1899. We are talking about 19th century. This was the thing. This was the time. Most of the countries were fighting for freedom, or either they were freed, just like in France, 1789, the French Revolution took place. So they were already freed. They never became the slave of anyone. And moreover, they started colonizing other countries. French colonies were settled in America. French colonies were settled in Canada. French colonies were settled in India. If you know, Goa, Pondicherry, they had French colonies. Goa was also colonized by the Portuguese. गोवा में पोर्तुगीज कॉलोनी थी, फ्रेंच कॉलोनी थी, एंड पौंडीचेरी इज अ हब of the French people. French culture is very much visible in India. If you want to enjoy French culture in India, you can go to Pondicherry. A lot of students, they are in my batch, they come from Pondicherry. So this was a time of great upheaval, a great change, a great turmoil, and this is the reason that most of the writers, they were dealing with the reality. The realistic approach towards literature was very much visible here. सबसे ज़्यादा चीज़ क्या थी कि यहाँ पे जो राइटर्स थे, they were talking about reality. They were not talking about the idealism, ideal morality, something like that. They were talking about the reality, and reality means when you, instead of talking about the idealism, you talk about the reality. Like most of the time, you must have seen people talk about Ram Rajya, the ideal utopian land. But the reality is that we do not have utopia, right? Utopia is simply in the mind, but you will never achieve your utopia. It's impossible, because utopia is a kind of image, kind of imaginary thought which gives you perfection. So 19th century literature is totally full of reality, realistic approach, right? Now what do you have to do? We're going to talk about the writers. I'll be telling you what exactly you have to read for the exam, because we hardly have around 20 days left for the exam. Today it's I think 20th of Jan, right? So 14th को exam है, तो I think you just have only 24 days left. So what exactly you have to read is, you can simply use pen and paper and you can write down things. Focus on most important writer, Lord Tennyson, Alfred Lord Tennyson. It's very, very important. Was the poet laureate also. His Ulysses, Lotus Eaters are very, very important. And then when you read Ulysses and Lotus Eaters, why I'm focusing on these things? Because in GATE exam in syllabus, it was mentioned that they will focus on the graduation level standard. So graduation level standard का मतलब क्या है यहाँ पे? Lotus Eaters and Ulysses. This is mostly taught in graduation. तो उसके बहुत सारे वर्क और हैं. आइडल्स ऑफ द किंग, मॉन्टेडी आर्थर है, चार्ज ऑफ द लाइट ब्रिगेड है, मॉड नाम से है, बेकेट नाम से है, हेराल्ड है, कप है, क्वीन है. बट ये सारा नहीं पढ़ना है जो ग्रेजुएशन में मेंशन किया जाता है. तो मोस्ट ऑफ द ग्रेजुएट जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं, ग्रेजुएट स्टूडेंट्स, दे सिंपली रीड यूलिसिस एंड लोटस ईटर्स. 1842 का पब्लिकेशन है. सो यूलिसिस स्टैंड्स फॉर द विक्टोरियन स्पिरिट. Why it's very, very important? It stands for Victorian spirit. Ulysses is the greatest warrior, the greatest hero. Also, Homer has talked about Ulysses in Odyssey. He has given one complete epic to the character only. So Ulysses अपने आप में great character है. You must know the name of Ulysses' wife, Penelope कौन है, Telemachus कौन है, what happens to Ulysses when he goes to the war for 10 years, then what happens when he's returning to his country Ithaca, फिर वो कहाँ गायब हो जाता है, how he comes back, and then what happens when he lends back to his own country Ithaca, जब वापस आता है तो क्या होता है, and the one who recognizes that it's Ulysses वो कौन है. If you have seen all my videos, there is a dog. As you all know that I'm a pet lover. So one of my students, Sagar Sharma, is here. Good to see you, Sagar. So yes, Argos is the dog, and Argos recognizes his master. वो dog जो है वो Ulysses को पहचान जाता है, and Ulysses sees the bad condition of the dog, but he doesn't stop because he knows that if I stop, the dog will identify me and everybody will identify me. So he drops a tear and the dog also dies. But it's the the emotion of a dog and a dog lover, how they were related to each other, and a dog was very much loyal to him. He never forgot him. कोई भूला नहीं उसको. So when you read Ulysses, you will have to see the story, the way he talks about his historical deeds. वो कहता है मैंने बहुत कुछ किया है. I am the part of everything I have met. हर वो चीज़ जहाँ मैं गया, जहाँ मैं था, I was not a witnessee. I was not a one who was watching it. I was the one who was the part of it. I played the great role. तो ये सारी चीज़ें जो हैं, Facebook students are here. Janet Lawrence, long time. How's you? Seems you're in Dubai, right? अभी आप दुबई में हैं. मेरा कॉफ़ी नहीं है because it's 3 a.m. and I don't want coffee. Coffee 3 a.m. पे is not good. So those who are taking tea or coffee right now, it's not good. Take it by 5. 5 बजे के आसपास लेना. तो make sure you remember the lines of Ulysses. Ulysses की lines याद रखना. It's very very important. I will drink life to the lees. And he says how dull it is to make a pause, to be unburnished, not to shine and use. So these lines are very very important because the Victorian spirit, the spirit of fighting back, the spirit of sacrificing the life, putting life at the risk to do something different, that is Victorian spirit. तो एक तो ये बहुत important है. Second thing आपको okay, good. This live is going on Facebook and on YouTube. So double live चल रहा है जी. It's just an experiment, and it went really well because I could talk to one of my students Sagar, then I got one of my friend Janet Lawrence. So अच्छा लग रहा है. Yes, Sagar, this line is applied on me. I cannot rest from travel. I am planning to go to Kashmir. Let's see कब जाते हैं. So इसके बाद आपको जो देखना है, दूसरा पढ़ना है लोटस पढ़ना है. लोटस ईटर्स. लोटस ईटर्स का स्टोरी क्या है? Here it has some elements of pessimism, but then the leader he motivates everyone. तो इसकी ओपनिंग लाइन बड़ी अच्छी है. Courage he said and pointed towards the shore. उसने इशारा किया कि वहाँ तक चलो, वहाँ चलना जरूरी है. And then they all sailed to that particular shore. When they rested there, when they landed there, उन्होंने देखा there was a kind of a flower, a kind of lotus, a flower which looked like lotus. And as they were very hungry, so they didn't give any second thought and they started eating it. But unfortunately, it was not the flower of lotus. It was opium. तो उन्होंने अफीम खा ली. And the drowsy effect, the numbness, so kind of sleepy, kind of slumber, they started feeling sleepy, and their eyes became drowsy, half sleepy, नशे में हो गए वो लोग. So they started talking about rest. They started questioning that why man has to do a lot of work, why we have to uh, do explorations, why are we supposed to work when we can sit home idle and eat. हम घर पे रह के खा पी सकते, तो हमें क्या ज़रूरत है काम करने की. तो यहाँ पे जैसे कई बार मैं क्लासेस में बोलता भी हूँ कि अजगर करे ना चाकरी, पंछी करे ना काम, दास मलुका कह गए सबके दाता राम. तो जब ऊपर वाला दे रहा है, तो वाई डू यू हैव टू वर्क. अजगर करे ना चाकरी, अजगर किसी की गुलामी नहीं करता. पंछी करना, पक्षी किसी और के लिए काम नहीं करता. दास मलुका कह गए सबके दाता राम. तो मलुक दास ने कहा कि सब देने वाला गॉड है, तो वाई डू यू हैव टू वर्क. सो दिस इज द क्वेश्चन. सो दे एन्जॉय द ब्यूटी, दे टॉक अबाउट द ब्रीज, दे टॉक अबाउट द सनलाइट. वो कहते हैं कि वी आर लाइंग एट द बीच एन्जॉइंग द सन बाथ एंड एन्जॉइंग द कोल्ड ब्रीज, एंड वाई आर वी सपोज टू वर्क हार्ड. तो ये जो फिलोसफी है, जो विक्टोरियन पेसिमिज्म को रिप्रेजेंट करती है, इसको काउंटर अपने बुक में ही करता है वो. ही सेज नो, वी हैव टू लीव समथिंग फॉर द अपकमिंग जनरेशंस. हमें अपकमिंग जनरेशंस के लिए बहुत सारी चीज़ें छोड़नी चाहिए. दिस इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग दैट यू हैव टू रीड. Along with this thing, you can also go for the Charge of the Light Brigade. This is very very important work because deals with the war. ये war पे है. Charge of the Light Brigade, it's important. After this, you go for Matthew Arnold. Whenever we talk about Matthew Arnold, there are two important things. First thing, Matthew Arnold is alone who stands as the most pessimist writer in Victorians and fights against Browning and Tennyson. तो टेनिसन ब्राउनिंग तो ऑप्टिमिस्टिक है. ब्राउनिंग वॉज कंप्लीटली ऑप्टिमिस्टिक. टेनिसन मेक्स अ बैलेंस बिटवीन ऑप्टिमिज्म एंड पेसिमिज्म. Arnold is completely pessimistic. Completely pessimistic. So Arnold has his own place. Then Arnold was not only a poet, he was also a professor of poetry in Oxford, right? And he was the greatest critic of his time. He wrote Rugby Chapel to commemorate the death of his father, and when he was severely criticized to remember his father after 15 years of his death, he said, I wanted a great writer to write about my father, and I have achieved that level. I have become good, I have become famous, and that's why now I'm writing about my father. So, this kind of person was Matthew Arnold, and he always believed that we have lost the innocence. देखो हमने एक चीज आप ध्यान से देखना. We have lost the innocence. How did we lose this innocence? The very first time when we tasted the fruit of knowledge. जब पहली बार हमने fruit of knowledge खाया. किसने खाया fruit of knowledge, if you remember? हमने मतलब mankind, humanity. किसने खाया था? Eve ने. And why Eve was forced to taste the fruit of knowledge? Tactfully. Tactfully means convince किया गया था. She was convinced by Satan. शैतान ने convince किया था उसे. शैतान नहीं बोलना चाहिए. 3 बज गए हैं. 3 बजे भूत आता है यहाँ पे. My friend Shiv Chaudhary is also watching. It's a great moment. Good to have you here, Shiv brother. हम लोग हॉस्टल में साथ में थे. That's amazing. So Saturn ने क्या किया? ध्यान रखना भाई कहीं सच में सैटर्न आ जाए आसपास. 3 AM भूत होता है. So Eve was convinced, and again when Saturn talked to her to convince her to eat the fruit of knowledge, it was a speech which has Renaissance element. Renaissance element है. कभी भी अगर आपको मौका मिलता है तो सैटर्न का स्पीच जरूर पढ़ना. Eve and Saturn conversation is very important. It will always help you to quote lines. So when Saturn meets Eve for the first time in the disguise of a serpent, एक सांप बन के मिलता है, तो Eve बोलती है you are the brute tongue denied. तुम्हें तो जबान मिली नहीं, how can you speak? Saturn convinces her. So when this Eve eats the fruit of knowledge, Adam also eats it to be the part of the same punishment. Adam does the same thing. And this is the loss of innocence. For the first time, what they exactly realize after eating the fruit. What is the first knowledge that comes to them? सबसे पहले first knowledge उनको क्या आता है? That they are naked. तो Adam and Eve को सबसे पहली बात, what is the first thing that comes to their mind? Adam and Eve, that they are naked. So it means the moment you start understanding that we are naked, we must cover ourselves. It means you have lost that innocence. Because when we are children, when we see the children, छोटे छोटे बच्चों को देखते हैं, so they are roaming around and they are naked. They are never conscious of it. But when we start growing up, when we start understanding social norms, social rules, regulations, social obligations, we start behaving. So technically, the loss of innocence comes there. And after that, you have seen the story. I have told you what happens after that. They sleep, they see the horrible dreams, and a lot of other things we already have talked about. So मैथ्यू आर्नोल्ड कीप्स ऑन टॉकिंग अबाउट द लॉस ऑफ इनोसेंस. वो हमेशा एक बात बोलते हैं कि लॉस ऑफ इनोसेंस बहुत ज़्यादा हुआ है. तो वो सबसे ज़्यादा इसमें डॉवर बीच में ही बात करेगा. डॉवर बीच जो 1867 का वर्क है, रिटन इन 1867 when he was on his own honeymoon with his wife. He felt melancholic standing at the shore of an ocean and watching the glimmering light of the moon. He started thinking about humanity. He started thinking about life. He started thinking about the future of humanity. क्योंकि वॉर भी चल रहे थे, बहुत सारे वॉर हो रहे थे. 1863 में क्रीमियन वॉर चल रहा था वहाँ पे. So there was war going on. Then people were becoming materialistic, forgetting religion. जैसे आज देखा जाए तो आज बहुत सारे लोगों ने रिलीजन को इग्नोर करना शुरू कर दिया है. और रिलीजन के रॉन्ग इंटरप्रिटेशन भी हैं. रिलीजन के गलत इंटरप्रिटेशन बहुत ज़्यादा हो रहे हैं. या हम लोग साइंटिफिक हो गए. वी आर इन मोबाइल्स, वी आर इन गैजेट्स, वी आर इन एप्स, एंड वी हैव फॉरगॉटन द लॉर्ड. I'll take a basic example. When I was a kid, so my father taught me that whenever you get up, wake up, whenever you open your eyes, do like this. Just thank your hands. Something's there. I think Saturn is trying to control my tongue. So, Karagre vaste Lakshmi, Kar Madhye Sarvasati, Kar Mule, something like that. I'm sorry, I don't remember the last line. I hope many of you know, but it was something like that. Karagre vaste Lakshmi, Kar madhe Saraswati, Kar mule, and there is something like that I'm missing. I'm not sure. if किसी को आए तो आप लिख देना. तो इस तरीके से वो चीज़ होती थी. We have forgotten all those things. Arnold was against it. So first of all, make sure you read every line of Dover Beach. सारी लाइनें याद करो. कुछ भी कहीं से कभी भी आ सकता है. The sea is calm tonight. तो वो जहाँ से लाइनें स्टार्ट होती हैं, या द सी ऑफ फेथ वॉज वंस टू फुल, या सोफोक्लीज हर्ड इट लॉन्ग अगो ऑन द शोर ऑफ एजियन, ये लाइन्स हैं. या वेयर द इग्नोरेंट आर्मीज क्लैश बाय नाइट, ये लाइन्स. या आ लव लेट्स बी ट्रू टू वन अनदर बिकॉज द वर्ल्ड दैट सीम्स फुल ऑफ लव हैज़ नो लव, नो जॉय. सो ये सारी चीज़ें आपको देखनी पड़ेगी. Then make sure you read Empedocles on Etna, because in Empedocles on Etna, Empedocles is a person who is fed up with materialistic life. Empedocles on Etna. Etna is a volcano. I think it's in Italy. So maybe my GK is not that good. So I believe volcano है Etna जो Italy में है. And okay, my dogs of my area are barking now. So उसमें क्या बोलता है, द मैन एम्पिडोक्लीज इज फेड अप विद मटेरियलिस्टिक लाइफ. ही इज फेड अप विद द आर्टिफिशियलिटीज ऑफ लाइफ. ही इज फेड अप सीइंग दैट देयर इज नो लव, नो trust, no faith, no sympathy, no connection with God, and we have gone through our cultural loss, we have gone through our rootlessness, we have lost our roots in religion. So he climbs that mountain. It's a volcano mountain, so he climbs it, and at the crater he speaks all these things because he is willing to commit suicide by jumping into the crater. And I think it's a weird idea. Like I have seen National Geography video, and some of them, they try to stand at the crater's mouth, and they try to film the burning gases and the burning rocks inside, the melted rocks. So जैसे lava वगैरह बोलते हैं आप. तो maybe it was a weird idea, but why he was going to commit suicide, why he was going to end his life? Because of pessimism, the pessimistic attitude. In Thyresis also he talks about a shepherd and talks about religious things, but again he talks about that we have forgotten the best gift of nature and the gift of God. So धीरे धीरे सारी चीज़ें होगी. एक स्टूडेंट है अमी अनन्या. अमी अनन्या, आपका एक रिपीटेड क्वेश्चन आ रहा है. आई थिंक 15 to 20 times you have repeatedly asked me some particular Americans का question. I hope you can see me live. It's a class. So if I read all the comments, I won't be able to answer you. That's the reason I'm just teaching. Question answer session will be done in the evening. So when there will be another live in the evening, we can do the question answer session. There I read your questions and I answer. Here it won't be possible. अभी possible नहीं हो पाएगा. Now after this, remember this, when you read Matthew Arnold, go for his criticism. That's very, very important. He talks about that poetry is the criticism of life under the laws of poetic beauty and poetic truth. So here you have to remember this thing, that poetry is criticism of life. First point. Second point is under the poetic truth, the laws of poetic truth and poetic beauty. Poetic beauty is the classical style of writing. The way you write, the way you hold control over the rhyming scheme, the way you control the language, diction, that is poetic beauty. And poetic truth is the a truth which is accepted by everyone, the universal truth, the truth which is actually true. So poet's responsibility is to talk about the vices of society by using the lines, language which has a great standard, poetic beauty, because classicals were always in support of great diction, great style, great expression. And poetic truth is that whatever you convey, it should not be an individual truth, it should not be the truth of a particular society, it should be a truth for each and everyone. सबके लिए सच होना चाहिए, universal truth होना चाहिए. It should be a great thought. Classicals always believed in this thing: great thought, great emotions, and great expressions. Three important pillars of classical criticism: great thought, great emotions, and great expressions. Great thought and great expressions were achieved by the neoclassicals also, but they could not achieve the great emotions, so that's why they are called pseudo classicals. ये सारे पॉइंट याद रखना. इसके बाद जब आर्नोल्ड में आप और चीज़ें पढ़ोगे तो रिमेंबर द टच स्टोन मैथड. इफ़ यू गो थ्रू माय वीडियो एंड लेक्चर गिवन टू यू, आपको टच स्टोन मैथड बहुत अच्छे से समझ में आ जाएगा. मोर ओवर सम स्टूडेंट्स वर टॉकिंग अबाउट दैट व्हेन ही वाज द प्रोफेसर ऑफ पोइट्री इन ऑक्सफोर्ड, व्हाट आर हिज व्यूज ऑन पोइट्री. ही सेज पोइट्री इज अ वेपन. Poetry is a weapon. You must work hard, you must practice, you must follow the classics, you must listen to your emotions also. And when you do a practice, you become a perfect writer. Then use poetry to express your emotion to correct the society. तो वो ये कहता है कि आपको criticism of life करना है. Criticism of life मतलब the criticism of the vices of life. उनको criticize करना है. This is how Matthew Arnold becomes one of the greatest writer. Then you go for Christina Rossetti, which is very, very important. Make sure you read Goblin Market. One writer, one book. Christina Rossetti, known as a sister of Daisy Rossetti, Dante Gabriel Rossetti. You already have gone through Pre-Raphaelite's lecture. आपको नहीं मिला है तो मिल जाएगा. In Daisy Rossetti, you remember that thing that Daisy Rossetti was inspired by his wife Elizabeth Siddal. I should not talk about Elizabeth Siddal because the next thing that I'm going to tell you is something scary. काफ़ी डरावनी चीज़ है वो चीज़ ये है Elizabeth Siddal died and as she was the muse of Daisy Rossetti famous books and Daisy Rossetti was inspired. So when Elizabeth Siddal died, Daisy Rossetti buried all his books in the grave of Elizabeth Siddal. And then after some discussion with friends, suggestions with friends, he excavated the grave. उसने grave से दोबारा उसको खोद के he got those books out of the grave and published it. So technically, if you are reading a book of Daisy Rossetti, then Elizabeth Siddal can stare at you. Oh my God! It's 3 a.m. and up to 3:30 हो गए शायद 3:20 हो गए. And I'm sure Elizabeth Siddal is all around me, but अगर हो तो I'm teaching, okay? I don't have any grudges against you, and I support Daisy Rossetti, Dante Gabriel Rossetti. Christina Rossetti, Goblin Market, the story of Lizzie and Laura, two girls. It talks about that how those girls got seduced. So one of them is smart enough, one of them is emotional, and the emotional girl is lured away. उसे attract करते हैं. She is seduced, and when she is deeply in love, she needs her sister to bring her out of that emotion. But it's not only a basic poetry or basic discussion. It deals with the queer concept. It also has the concept of homosexuality. So when you read it, make sure you remember that homosexuality का concept है. It's very very important. Lizzie, Laura, both are the sisters, and here one sister offers herself as as a replacement of man. She says, "Eat me, drink me, love me." These kind of lines are there. So you make sure you read it in a proper way and go for a critical analysis of Goblin Market. ये जरूर पढ़ लेना. Then we go for Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Elizabeth Barrett Browning, very important. Famous work Aurora Lay, sonnet from Portuguese, and और भी है Casa Guidi Windows and all. But remember all these basic things, they are very very important. ये सारी चीज़ें पढ़ लेना है, miss नहीं करना. And Elizabeth Barrett Browning के two sonnets which are very famous. I already have talked and given and I've told you the lines also. आपको मैंने lines भी बताई हैं. Oh call me by my pet name, the name I used to run at. ये सारी चीज़ें पढ़नी है. सो टुडेज होमवर्क फॉर गेट स्टूडेंट्स प्राइमरली, जो आज के गेट स्टूडेंट्स हैं, बिकॉज नेट स्टूडेंट्स आर गोइंग टू हैव द एग्जाम इन द मंथ ऑफ जून. नेट के बच्चों का तो जून में एग्जाम होगा. गेट के बच्चों को आई हैव गिवन द टारगेट. नाउ व्हाट यू हैव टू डू एंड व्हाट आई विल डू, आई टेल यू. टेनिसन, आर्नोल्ड, ब्राउनिंग, मिसेस ब्राउनिंग एंड क्रिस्टियन रोसेटी, 5 writers. Use your sources, audio lectures, live lectures, read them, revise them, and be prepared with 5 writers. And then you continue your own preparation. अपनी चीज़ें पढ़ो. Now what I will do, I have already studied Tennyson and all these writers. I already have proper notes of all these things, but still I'm going to recite all the lines, all the important details once again. So I am going to do the revision. You also have to do the revision. अभी अब क्या करना है, 5 to 6, 6 बजे तक 3 घंटे. ओके, 5 राइटर्स कंप्लीटली खत्म करो. सो ये जो 5 राइटर्स हैं, वॉट एवर आई सजेस्टेड यू, बाय 6:30, बाय 7 मैक्स 7, लास्ट 7 तक फिनिश दीज राइटर्स बिकॉज दे आर इंपॉर्टेंट वंस. 19th सेंचुरी से ज़्यादा क्वेश्चन आएंगे, 19th सेंचुरी से ज़्यादा एनालिटिकल क्वेश्चन आ सकते हैं. तो आई हैव टू टेल यू अ लॉट ऑफ मोर इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग्स ऑफ 19th सेंचुरी. सो मेक श्योर यू फिनिश ऑल दीज थिंग्स बाय नाउ. चलो देन, get back to study and do not take coffee now because coffee will help you by 5 a.m. अभी तो आप जगे हो, नींद नहीं आ रही है. आराम से जब नींद आए तब कॉफ़ी पीना. And I have shifted myself to this study room. It's not only that you guys are waking up. I have left my cozy bedroom and I have come to this place so that even I don't have to go to my luring bedroom because it will make me sleep. And I'll show the YouTube guys also. तब तक मैं Facebook guys को टाटा कर देता हूँ. I'll show you all. This has become my bed. अब यहाँ सोना है, उस बेड पे नहीं जाना because when I teach here, that bed becomes cold and I start feeling cold here. I go and sit there. I feel uncomfortable. I have to fight my sleep. Here it will be easy to fight my sleep. So see you all. Take care and enjoy the session. Bye bye.